Hello, and welcome to the 12th episode of Real Talk with the Unicorn. My name is Tatiana, and I'm recruiter in supply chain and logistics. An idea for this episode came to me about a month ago. I wanted to showcase successful job search stories, and create an episode of hope and episode of motivation. Today, you will meet with 8 supply chain professionals who successfully managed to find a new job during COVID-19 pandemic. Some of them switched industries. You will see professionals who came from foreign countries to Canada and still managed to find employment. You will meet managers, analysts, planners in supply chain, and I'm sure there will be at least one story that you can resonate with. Today, I welcome all my 8 participants, and I want to acknowledge that for every participant, right now they are stepping out of their comfort zone in order to make a difference and help you in your job search. They're doing this for our professional community, and it's a great act of kindness, generosity, and of course, braveness. Thank you very much for your time today, this evening. And the very first participant that I want to introduce is Amit Modi. Amit came to Canada in 2019, right before the pandemic hit us all. And actually, right now, Amit is working for his second Canadian employer. And I'm very curious to know what it takes to find new job in Canada during pandemic. And I'm sure that if you are an immigrant, you can learn a lot from Amit's story, because he will have an advice for you based on his experience. Amit, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Tatiana. Thank you for inviting me and presenting me on this beautiful platform. I definitely look forward to contribute. And also, if any of the viewers can, if they want to connect with me, more than welcome to help anyone and everybody on a small way that I can contribute to. Sure. So I'll just give an example, a brief introduction of myself. So I'm a supply chain practitioner forever. I have around 8 to 9 years of experience. My experience mainly is in procurement side of supply chain. So I've been working as a procurement consultant. I've worked across different pharmaceutical clients, different construction companies as well, but mainly on the procurement side. So when I came to Canada, my biggest focus was to get a job in procurement itself. I also have a brief experience of managing supply chain, so customers and handling customer complaints and ensuring that the material is delivered to customers at the right time. So I have a brief idea about the supply chain part of aspect as well. So that experience really helped me in getting my first job. The journey was not easy. Okay, so I started somewhere around looking for a job somewhere in last September, and I could finally get my job in the month of February. So easily it was 8 months worth of effort and a consistent effort to find that job. But I'm very happy to say that by the end of that 8 months journey, I had 3 successful job offers in front of me, and then I picked up the one that made the most sense to me, the one which was very relevant to me. And to be honest, all of them happened just within the last 15 days, where I was not even expecting, that something might come up. I got my first job. I was happy there. And in that same moment, 2 more job opportunities came up, and I pounced on them, right? I wasn't shy in not pouncing on that. But yeah, I mean, I would just give one advice, that always be open to what things are happening around you, and always be flexible to get whatever you want that you have, and then spring forward to that. And then eventually we all will get what we are seeking for. Thanks.
And were you applying online? Because there are 3 ways of getting a new job. It's through recruiter, applying online, networking. So how did you get those 3 offers that you were talking about?
So the first 2 jobs that I had were mainly driving from online applications, looking at LinkedIn, those job applications. But the third job was very funny to say. I gave around 4 interviews for that particular role. And so I applied for one job, but then that vacancy was filled out, right? And then I wasn't able to get them. But then they really liked my profile. So then they they contacted me around 1 or 2 months after, you know, the initial round happened, and they tried to get me, accommodate me into some another role. Eventually I didn't pick that role because I got the current job that I'm having, and I was more than happy to join this role. But I would just say that, you know, if one door closes, that doesn't mean that it's closed. Probably just paused for you, and you know, something might just come up. So just to answer your question, this one job that I got was purely from a reference that I went to an interview. I didn't got that job, but I got some another job at the same company.
That's excellent, Amit. And we are talking about your current role as a sourcing specialist at COSMETICA Laboratories.
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's very encouraging because people think that applying online does not bring results. However, it's the first and the most effective way of getting a new job. It just may be exhausting. You need to tailor your resume. You need to...
Correct.
It's a numbers game in many cases.
Correct. Just one tip, like I would really advise anyone and everyone to have patience. You know, it takes a long time. It takes a real long time. You know, it's not that you apply and then probably a week down the line you can hear a call or something like that. You know, it might take months. You know, I myself took like 6 to 8 months to get the right kind of job, but it will happen. But all you need to do is just keep your patience.
Well, thank you, Amit. And we are moving on to our next guest, Katie ZASLAVER. Katie graduated from Ryerson University in 2015. And shortly after that, Katie started her career in supply chain, working in customer service and supply chain analysis. And actually, Katie managed to switch company in the midst of pandemic. So I would like to hear more about Katie's experience, because I speak with many professionals these days, and if they are happily employed but they still want to make a change, they sometimes are nervous and anxious about this change because the time is uncertain. So Katie, we would like to learn more about your move and how you managed to find your current role as a replenishment analyst at Metro.
Hi, thank you for having me. As you said, I'm Katie. So basically, I started my job search in January of 2020. I think it was a type of New Year's resolution, let's say. But shortly after I started looking, the pandemic hit. The thing is about that, I will definitely highlight that a lot of people will say it's not a good time to look, maybe should stay at your current role. But I would really encourage everybody that is unhappy in their current role or unemployed to still branch out. I think the most vital piece of advice I could give is to know exactly what you're looking for, especially if you're looking to trade up and get a different role, or even in a different industry. Maybe take a few moments to write out the exact working conditions that you'd like, and maybe even research some companies. I ultimately got my role because I had looked into a few companies that I would really like to work for. I figured out the dynamic and the work culture that I was most interested in being a part of. And from that, I had a short list of companies. Now, a lot of companies will actually have a job portal, like a job opportunity portal on their website where you can put in your email and a few different aspects, like, for example, the seniority of the role you're looking for and maybe the department, and they will email you once a role comes up. And ultimately, that is how I got my role. Of course, I'd still recommend going through all the other means, like Indeed and all those other websites and all like references, of course. But this is actually a pretty cool way to get jobs delivered right to your front door. A lot of the time through setting up this profile, you can even automatically apply. Just with the click of a button. So pretty, I mean, not to say it's low effort, but it is definitely worth your while to do the research and sign up on these portals. A bit of a time investment upfront, but definitely worthwhile. Another thing is, I would say, so I ended up getting my role in June. I got a contract position initially, and I received a permanent role in August, about 2 months later, leaving my really stable first ever full-time job and jumping into a 6-month contract was definitely a risk, especially during the pandemic. In terms of risk taking, obviously take calculated risks, but I would encourage everybody to bet on themselves. Like, if you bet on yourself, you will always win. And you cannot underestimate, for any of the younger viewers or listeners, never underestimate the power of youthful exuberance. A lot of employers and hiring managers are ultimately looking for somebody who, if they're lacking in experience or pedigree, they can coach to become an effective team member. And a lot of that enthusiasm and passion that people tend to lose further on in their career can really be regained with a youthful, like not necessarily in age, but just in terms of attitude, of an attitude of wanting to learn and experience the industry fully, really pumps up the energy in the team. So hiring managers do look for that. And I'd say that was probably my number one reason for success, especially in the permanent position.
Well, Katie, that's an amazing story. And thank you for your enthusiasm. And, working for Metro, it's one of those industries, I mean, retail, grocery, it's one of those industries that is experiencing huge workload these days. And thank you so much for everything you do for us. Of course, that enthusiasm definitely is something that is bringing spark to the entire team, even remotely, because I assume you were onboarded remotely, were you?
That's correct. And I think it's even more important when it's remote, because, people are lacking connection. And if you're open and ready to connect with other people and have them teach you and go through that communication, then it's going to make your onboarding a lot easier, let me tell you.
Oh, that's amazing, Katie. That's a great and inspiring story. And as a headhunter, I reach out to professionals who are currently employed, and I often get rejections from potential candidates because they are afraid of even considering a change. And that's a great story. And I highlight that you need to take calculated risks. We're not encouraging you to leave your current employer, but be open and explore those opportunities. Maybe you will have an opportunity to make a difference in someone's life with your next move. And thank you, Katie. And the next guest is Roman YEVSEYEV. Roman joined APOTEX as a supply chain consultant right at the beginning of pandemic. And I believe Roman was even on
back in February 24th last year. And I've been to the office only for like 5 days.
Oh, yeah. Let's consider it that way. And of course, we are interested to hear your story, because you had experience working in Canada in supply chain planning for companies like Maple Leaf, Spin Master. You had that experience. And for many professionals, especially for those who are new to the country, they think if you worked for those brands, if you had that experience, it's very easy to find the next step. So how was it for you? How did you find this opportunity with APOTEX? And what is your experience with the pandemic job search?
So the story goes like this, right? So the initial search for the place where I am today took me, I would say, close to a year, right? So it started way before the pandemic, and I even joined another company in between, right? But as in any relationship, and job is a relationship, always treated like that. Right, so you're always in relation with the people. You're always in relation with the overall organization, right? So at some point, you decide to move on, right? So and that's what happened to me at Spin Master, and I started my search. So I joined this other company called Tilly Endurables. They're a Canadian brand, very famous in the narrow circle of people there. When I joined them, something wasn't right about the job, and I kept looking. So even though the package was exactly what I wanted, even though the position was right, something wasn't right inside the company, right? And that's what you have to be always ready for, right? Because when you take the calculated risk, as Katie said, you always have to be ready to jump next, because you never know. It's a relationship. You might not match each other at the end, like things happen, and some things are outside of your control there. So 3 months into the role, they decided to scrap my entire position, reassign me to a completely different role. And of course, I joined them specifically for the title and the position, and I was upset. So I started looking, and we are talking approximately about October. But since already from the beginning, I was suspecting something wrong was happening. I didn't, close all my LinkedIn accounts. I didn't close all my Indeed accounts or anything like that. I kept applying. I kept receiving offers, and I was in a position of picking the right ones at that moment. However, the right one wasn't coming, right? So there were either positions with the completely absurd packages or something not suitable for me personally. So what worked for me this time around that actually never worked for me is a event. I went to a supply chain Canada event for networking. It was my first time. I wasn't even a member of the organization, right? So I was invited by Tatiana, actually. Yeah, and you know what? I spoke to some people in there. I've met some people from APOTEX. And in fact, I actually did apply to a couple of positions at APOTEX before that. And that was a November timeframe. And I've never heard from anyone from APOTEX since then. Like only right before the New Year's in, I think like it was last week of December 2019. And somebody called me. They're like, oh, we actually would like to invite you for an interview sometime in February. So without thinking, of course, I agreed. Like we had a chat there. I went, and like within a week, I got the job.
So networking speed up.
Exactly. So networking did speed up the overall hiring process there. And plus, back to the point of being patient by AMIT, right? Sometimes companies wait until the very, very last moment, and they make a decision on a spot in the last minute.
Yeah, they're forced to make a decision.
Exactly. They're forced, yeah. So my advice to the people, whoever is watching here, is not to rush it, right? And not to jump on the first opportunity that may seem right, but you don't feel right about it yourself. Because you go for the interviews, right? And interview is like a date for you, right? So treat it as a date. You have to make a match with the hiring person. If you are, just going for the title, if you're just going for the package, be careful, because like I am the live example of what might happen. Like in my case, it did work out. In some other cases, it could have not, right? So you have to be always assessing the job, not only from the pay side and the title, but also from your personal inner happiness.
Yeah, from culture, explore
exactly.
Culture. I always encourage my candidates to ask questions regarding the corporate culture, team building, encouragement, leadership, because eventually you will be part of that team. That's great story, Roman. Thank you. The importance of networking. And we are moving on to our next guest, Tony Morse. Tony is a supply chain executive with over 20 years of experience. Tony started his career at Celestica, then worked for Walmart, Rakuten, and also Echo Shoes. Right now, Tony is a supply chain and network design professional working for Staples Canada. So we are very excited to hear your story, Tony, and I'm sure that executives and supply chain managers can relate to the struggles that you went through if you did. So please welcome to the show, and we are looking forward to hearing your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thanks for having me. My name's Tony, and I'm currently working at Staples Canada in charge of supply chain and network design. And I've been working there since May, so post the pandemic. After leaving my previous post as the operations director for Echo Shoes in January, previous to the pandemic, my role was regionalized into the US market. And I decided, I didn't want to explore any US opportunities and stayed at home. And then, of course, when the pandemic became a reality, I had a bit of a panic like anyone else would from a, how would this affect my career perspective? And would I be able to find something comparable or that would challenge me still? And you know, if you focus on that area, it kind of will distract you from what those goals are. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're still focused on your career and where you want to go, and try and align your experience to what's going to happen in the market. And I think that's an advantage for supply chain professionals right now. You know, we're lucky in the sense that during a pandemic, supply chain is probably more important than it ever has been before. You know, and it's expanding opportunities where, you know, there was already growth in an e-commerce division, and now we've seen growth of 10 years within months. So, you know, so there are opportunities out there. So how do you fit your experience, and how do you fit yourself as a person to be in some of those opportunities, right? So I would say overall, that was always my approach. And I tried to stay focused on opportunities that were being posted and trying to align contacts who may work for that company through LinkedIn. You know, I had probably 10 interviews, 100 conversations, and 10,000 emails that went out, right? So not necessarily something that's easy. It's difficult for me, as I'm a bit of an introvert at heart. So in some cases, reaching out to people which you haven't spoken with before, it can be uncomfortable. But, you know, like a Disney movie, without risk, there's no reward. Or maybe that's Spider-Man, I don't know. But you know, job searches at the end of the day are a very humbling journey, because you're going to get rejected way more times than you're going to be accepted. So you have to continue to remain positive, and focus on what's going to fit you both personally, and to make sure that your career is growing in the right way. So it's ensuring that you're putting in the effort, that you're not that you're staying focused on what you want to do towards your original goal, and not changing that if the journey gets hard. Continue to work forward, stay positive, and that process will eventually work out for you.
So Tony, I'm glad that you mentioned that you were reaching out to your network, you were talking to people. That's important to maintain a relationship, because you never know when your network may help you. And sometimes it's not necessarily what you can get from people, it's also what you can offer them. Maybe you can connect them with other people. So it's a relationship. It's maintaining relationship with other professionals in the industry, because you can always do something for other people. And I agree with you. It's a very humbling experience, because you will face a lot more rejections than offers. And Tony, how did you find this particular role? Was it through online applications or a recruiter? Or? It
was actually through a contact who had a person that was a contact that I had a peer that introduced me to the specific person. So it started out as a kind of an interest interview. And as we started to discuss, we kind of, as we were talking, kind of created a role together to say how we could best benefit what they were seeing from a growth perspective. I mentioned e-commerce, so that's kind of what we're in what I work with today. As the growth has happened, people are working from home, like I am right now in a room I created into an office. And in order to do that, I need to be supplies, and I wasn't going to go out and get it because all the stores were closed, so it had to get delivered to me. So how does that network work? How does it come together? So kind of created and bounced it off and kind of talked through ideas. So again, networking, socializing, and all of those rejections that happened, who knows what'll happen 2 years, 5 years down the road. Those could be very positive conversations I don't even know about yet. So can't underestimate the value of putting in that effort and stepping out of that comfort zone, right? It's important.
Absolutely. And especially it's a great advice for executives who have years of experience working in the corporate world. They can reach out to people they worked with, they worked for. So definitely do not underestimate the value of not networking. And there is nothing wrong with reaching out and asking for help, asking for introduction, and offer that to your friends, because some of your friends may need that, but they may be shy to ask for it. So if you know that your executive friends or friends in the professional world are looking for work, offer them access to your network and be generous to introduce them to potential hiring managers. Thank you, Tony. That's a great, inspiring story as well. And we are moving to Rajan Patel, our next guest. Rajan came to Canada during pandemic from India, and
yes,
he managed to find his first job in Canada as a warehouse coordinator at MOLSON COORS. However, at home, Rajan worked as a supply chain analyst. So it's definitely, it's a shift in your business environment, but it's also an interesting story to hear because you came during pandemic and you found your first employment. Please tell us about your journey and what it takes to get employed.
Yeah, it has been a very roller coaster ride because the moment I received my PR, the whole world went into lockdown. So that was the first shock that I received, and I had 6 months to enter Canada. But somehow when the flights started taking off, I landed in July. So I have tried many things to get a job, but back in home, I had never was on a job hunt because my previous jobs were through my campus recruitment. So after my graduation, I got my first job in the campus recruitment. After that, I did a postgraduate. Even after that, I also got my job from the campus recruitment. So I had no experience of job hunting, and here I started afresh. And I wanted to, I had to understand how the job market works here. So I had to do research before coming here. And I also had to take a step back for my profile because I was an analyst back home. And somehow I wanted to continue my journey in supply chain. And I was not receiving many responses for the similar profiles. So I thought to take a step back if it is necessary. And I did that. And I applied through online portals. And I also contacted recruiters. So recruiter reached out to me and showed me this opportunity. And once I got the opportunity, I knew that I couldn't blow it off. So yeah, I had to also work on my resume because the format that we follow in India and in Canada are totally different. So I had to upgrade my knowledge about that also. And the way the recruiting process takes place is also very different from India. So it has been a very, I had to learn quickly about the job market in Canada to get a first job here. And luckily, I can only say that I was lucky that I got my first job in 5 months, and that too in my choice of sector or the industry. So in that way, I have been very lucky.
Yeah, and Rajan, it's important that you mentioned that you registered with different recruiters, you applied on online portals. It happened to me as well. I ended up placing someone who I spoke with for the first time 2 months ago. So I didn't have a role at that time, but I had that person's resume. It's very important to reach out to people. And even if they don't have an opportunity for you right now, this is such an unpredictable market. Today you don't have a role and tomorrow your client is reaching out to you looking for a person and this role is urgent to be filled. So it's
yes, I think why recruiter was very critical in finding my job was the employer here are not very willing to invest their time and energy to interview the candidate who is not experiencing Canadian work environment or work culture. So they are not so much open to give even interview opportunity to immigrants. Or so they see it as limited opportunity to get right candidate. So the recruiter filled that gap for me, and I was able to get an interview for my job.
That's amazing. And I applaud to all those recruiters who think outside the box and they still manage to promote their candidates and present their candidates to the clients. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Rajan. That's a great story, very inspiring. And the next guest, the next supply chain professional is Angela MIOTTO. And Angela has not just moved from Montreal to Toronto during pandemic. Angela also started her career in supply chain after having almost 14 years of previous experience in other areas of business. So Angela, I'm very curious to know what it is that you did and how did you start your career in supply chain while moving from one city to another. I'm sure you have a lot to tell us. And Angela right now works as a supply chain and customer service specialist at ICEGEN CORP. So welcome, Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here, Tatiana. Well, I'm new to the career, new to the company, new to the technology, new to the country. I lived in Brazil my whole life. I used to be an executive assistant. I got here in Canada last year. It's been a year that I've been here. And I came to Montreal to study because I wanted to have a professional experience abroad. I wanted to improve my French. So I came here for a international business course. And to get my diploma, it was a requirement of the course to have a internship. So when I was close to finish my course in Montreal, I needed to get this internship. And we were in the middle of this COVID pandemic. And I was struggling to get an internship. And I'm always like very anxious and I want to anticipate things. So I didn't wait the course to be over to start looking for it. What I did is like when I had a month of classes, I started looking for the internship. And as I couldn't find it right away, what I did is like I went to my LinkedIn and I posted something like, I need an internship, please help me out. And you have to keep in mind that I didn't have any contacts here in Canada. I came here alone. I'm single, no families, no friends. So what happens is like network is not only your network, because I had people from Austria recommending me. I have like ex-colleagues from Brazil recommending me, and they knew people that were here in Canada. So I actually got like 3 companies calling me in a week. Wow. And, I chose this one because it was the most promising one. Like he didn't read my post, but it was a director who knew me in 2006, like more than 10 years ago. And he knew about my commitment. He knew I was very dedicated. He knew I was very into like the work, and he knew exactly that I didn't have the experience. And he said, well, you need an internship, you come here, you do it, and we see how things go. And then when I finished my internship, he said, well, you know what? He got me as an office manager because I had experience in that. And then he says, well, we liked you, like you're doing a good job, but I might have something more. Like, wouldn't you like to start a career with us in logistics? And I said, of course. So they started training me. I've been learning a lot about the product and the technology. And it's been now 7 months I'm with them. And I was recently promoted as a coordinator, logistics and customer service coordinator. And what I used to say is like, when you look for a job, it's not only on job boards. The best opportunities are not posted. Like, do not wait for an opportunity. Create your own opportunities. Like, this was not a position. Like they made it happen just because I was available and I gave a shot. Like I was living in Montreal and I moved here in a week. I hear lots of people looking for jobs, but they're like, oh, this is too far away. The salary on this one is not so good. I'm not willing to move. Like if you want to do something, like if you want to just show up and do your best. And it's been working.
I'm actually glad. I can see your attitude, and I'm not surprised that you got promoted and you got a permanent role there. It's also, for a lot of people, it's hard to break that ice and even make a post like that asking for work. They think that, so it's also important to stay humble and be okay to ask for help. There is nothing wrong with that. And if you worked hard and you maintained good relationship with people, with your previous employers, there'll be a way for them to connect you with other people. It's all about networking and your ability to step up and ask for that help. And of course, you didn't mention that, Angela, but I'm sure you're the person who will do anything for other people when they ask you for help. And that's what I can sense from you. And even for you guys to be with us today and sharing your experience in the evening when it's your personal time, it tells a lot about your attitude, your approach to work. And I always encourage employers to look beyond skills and requirements that are on the resume, explore the personality, ask good questions. And I think your company, ICEGEN, is happy, and it's a great asset for them to have you there. So congratulations.
Yeah, that's you said it all. Like it's not only about technical skills, because those can be trained, even the language, but being committed to what you're doing, I think it makes a difference.
Energy and enthusiasm, that's important. Angela, thank you so much. Thank you. And Our next guest is OLESANNI. Olo is a senior manager of strategic sourcing at low companies. Olo has experience working in multiple industries, 14 years of experience, and Olo had actually managed to switch industries during pandemic. And of course, working for a retail chain is definitely something that is happening a lot these days. So Olo, can you please tell us your story, how you managed to switch industries, how you managed to secure this role, and how do you find it?
Thank you very much for that introduction, Tatiana. I'm glad to be here, and I'm happy to share my experience as well. I got into Canada July, ending of July 2020. That was during the pandemic proper. So a lot of people have asked me the question, how did you do it? How did you make manage to get a job and all that within the pandemic? And I would say it's a roller coaster, as somebody mentioned. I think Amit mentioned that as well. But a lot of things come into play. One has to develop a very good strategy as well. This current role that I am in right now, I think it took me about 4 months to secure this role. Prior to then, I've been applying for a lot of roles. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I created a very good profile on LinkedIn, which I think it's everybody's professional profile. Everybody's looking at your profile, so you have to make sure that the content you put into your LinkedIn represents you very well. So I have a very good, at least I would say I think it's a very good profile on LinkedIn.
It's great.
I created a profile also on Glassdoor. I created a profile on Indeed as well, because I consider these 3 platforms very strong when it comes to job search and also career networking and all of that. So I've applied to relevant roles. What I do, my own strategy, I apply to relevant roles. Like you mentioned, I've worked in diverse industries, in the financial services industry. I've worked in the telecoms industry. I've worked in oil and gas, and now I found myself in retail groceries. So I also mentioned earlier that, the world of supply chain is universal. It works on principles. If you understand the principles, it's applicable in different industries. So that is what I do, and I try to network myself. Also, not to forget, it's also very good to pray when you're looking for a job. You can't underestimate the power of prayers. Whatever you do, pray. I personally pray. So I pray and I make sure that I connect with people. One of the things I also did was I was thinking during my job search that, hey, Canada has a lot of, it's like a country filled with a lot of professionals. So what kind of stands you out as a candidate, when you're applying for a job? There are a lot of procurement professionals out there. There are a lot of supply chain professionals. What stands you out? You can't just, apply for a job and then you let it go like that. So what happens when you are called? What are you going to tell the prospective hiring manager or the human resources person doing the interview? So one of the things I did, because I always want to make a lasting impression whenever I meet people. So one of the strategies I did was, whenever I'm called for interview, before I'm called, I prepare a capability presentation. So I have a presentation of myself as it aligns to the role. So what that means is that without them asking me to make a presentation, I offer to make a presentation of why you should hire me on this role. So I do that, and I think it kind of works, and a lot of people find it very interesting. That kind of shows your presentation skills. It kind of shows your communication skills. It kind of shows that you have initiative. And I also know that not so many candidates would do that. So all in the bid to make a lasting impression in the hearts of, or in the mind of the hiring manager. I know after the sessions, definitely the hiring manager will say, some guy made a presentation. Who is that guy? So it works for me. And I think it kind of worked for me. I was able to secure a couple of offers, in 4 months of my landing in Canada, and I started my current role in January. It's been fun, and I think one of the things I also want to advise other people is to apply, and apply. Right? It's not easy. A lot of roles come out every day. Usually, when I do my own application, I wait until around 4 p.m., 5 p.m. When I believe all the discussions around should we proceed to hire, the hiring manager seeking approval, budgetary information would have been done. So I want to reckon posting to job sites will take place around between 4 p.m., 5 p.m. So I jump on the job site, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed. I fire all the CVs out there. And, not all of them put calls through to me for interviews, but I did quite a lot of interviews. And I was, the more interviews I do, it gets better. It gets better by the day. And so that's what I did. And it's been awesome. So I want to encourage everybody. There's a lot of, there's actually a hiring surge right now. Keep applying, keep customizing your CVs, do something unique that stands you out of, every other candidate that's been called, and I'm sure you'll definitely get a job.
Yeah, Ololo, thank you so much for your story. And I'm glad that you mentioned the fact of standing out. If you don't have a presentation, it is not, it's great that you did it, but some people don't feel comfortable presenting to strangers. I always recommend the best way to stand out, do your research on the company and ask intelligent questions. Ask questions that are related to the business, to the company, or maybe the hiring manager, because everyone asks questions like, what are your expectations of this role? Why
Absolutely.
is it open? These are all cliche questions. Avoid any cliche during interview, and that will stand you out. Demonstrate your intellect by doing intense research. And
absolutely.
What you mentioned also is that your job search was targeted. It was relevant to your previous experience. And that's also important, to know what you want. And I congratulate you on this role. It's a big role, senior manager, global sourcing, amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our next guest, it's our final guest today. After that, I will ask you just maybe one question and we will be wrapping up the discussion, but please welcome Samir Misra. Samir is a business analyst at the Home Depot, and Samir is taking care of inventory planning and replenishment. So Samir managed to secure this opportunity during pandemic, and it is not just the new opportunity, it is also the first time for Samir working for a retail company. So Samir spent about 10 years working in consulting, including Deloitte, and I know professionals coming from consulting environment, and they find it very difficult to secure a position in a corporate world, in retail, in CPG. And I wonder, Samir, what was your story and how you managed to land this job?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. First of all, thanks a lot, Tatiana, to invite me for this session. And so talking about my experience over here, getting this job, it's been I landed in Canada back in 2019. At that time, obviously, we all know that job market is not very live at the time of December, January, and Feb. So that time I actually utilized to groom myself before directly landing into the market. Although there were not many jobs in the market, so I attended access sessions and different sessions across Toronto where I could learn what are the interview techniques, what are the resume preparation techniques, to understand Canadian market, how everyone behaves, how everyone talks. So this was my first movement to Canada, so I had to learn all these things. That was one of the things that I did. And the biggest advantage that I can say apart from that is that I made friends. I came alone. I didn't have anyone over here. I didn't know anyone in Toronto. So whatever I didn't have any contacts, frankly speaking. So I got almost very good friends out of those sessions, and still I'm in touch with them. So that helps you, first of all, to share your thoughts, share your time, as well as to make connects across everyone. That is one of the things that we always prefer, to make connects and use them as a reference for some job or other. So, and talking about my job, I started this job in retail industry, although as you mentioned, this was my first experience in retail. I had no experience back in India. So what I did, the only experience that I had was from a client perspective. I worked for various clients, including manufacturing, retail, CPG, and everyone. But working with for a client and working directly in a retail company is totally different experience. So over here, I understood that it's very lively environment. You have to be completely on your toe. First of all, it is retail. Second thing, it is supply chain. And third thing, I would say, when I joined, pandemic just hit and it was at its peak. And Home Depot was actually improving their e-commerce presence in Canada. So that gave me an advantage to show my skills in terms of supply chain, as well as some tools that I do for data analytics and everything. So just before joining Home Depot, I did some certification in Tableau and other BI tools, which could help me to prepare dashboards and help a team to understand how we can improve the supply chain, how we can improve the forecasting, how we can see how our logistics is working. So all those things helped me to prepare myself. And I forgot to mention about how I joined this company. So yeah, I know you asked everyone about this. So I was like, I have to tell this. So I started this thing back from India itself. I took some local Canadian number. I prepared resume, applied through LinkedIn, Indeed, and Glassdoor, and everywhere I was applying. Although I didn't get much call out of it, but still I managed to get, I think, 2 to 3 calls. And I used to take it in the midnight from India, and everyone was like, "What are you doing in midnight and talking to someone?" So I was like, so I mentioned that, okay, this is my job interview in Canada. So I prepared myself. This was my plan to do. Once I landed over here, I followed the same thing of Indeed, LinkedIn, and all those. But what I additionally did, I got in touch with recruiters online, sent them invite, told them this is my profile, this is what I have experience in, and this is what I'm looking for. So although, since you already mentioned that you also reach out to people who has experience, and even though you don't have any requirement right now, you might reach out to them later. That's what happened with me. Many recruiters reached out to me later, mentioning that we have some requirement which is in line with your experience. So that is one of the things which helped me a lot. And I went to some consulting firms like Randstad and those things to again prepare my profile over there. So similar sort of recruiters. And finally, the reference part. I have heard a lot that references are really required in Canada, and I totally understood that it is actually very helpful, at least to get you an interview. If you apply online, so that you're not sure whether you'll get a call or not for interview and all, but at least you have a reference, you'll get a call. Then it is totally on you how you make use of that opportunity. That is why I say that references are important. And finally, I would, two things which helped me a lot while converting my interview into job. First would be the utilization of my certification. Tell them that the certification will help me for performing my job, and I'm capable of doing all these things. So that helped me. And the second thing, to learn about a company. At least I'm not sure about other, but I used to actually ignore one of the question when every interviewer asked, "Do you have any question for us?" So back in India, I used to skip that, but now I realize the importance of it. So my approach is always to research about a company, and the best way of researching is to directly go and take their annual report, read through it, although it is 400, 500 pages, but we can skim it and see what is relevant for our job opportunity and make a question out of it. That would be the best way to get a question. So because this shows that you are interested in company, you know about company, and you are interested in this position too. That is, I think I would say that is the biggest learning through this process, because I actually took more than 6 months to get land my job, and I learned all these things with my experience. So yeah.
Samir, thank you so much. I agree with you. Many candidates focus on how they answer questions, but what questions you ask is as important, if not more important, when you are there in the interview. I think that we wrapped up all the stories and our time is up almost, but in case you want to ask each other a question, maybe you want to share what it is that you learned from other people's experience that stick with you and that you will remember for your future. If you want to say something, please. If not, then yeah, Angela, you're welcome.
No, it's not a question, but like listening to all those stories, what it makes me think like there is no pattern, there is no recipe. Each one will create your own path, and each story is unique. Each professional is unique. So just go for it and base yourself on the positive attitude, on the good things that are out there, and do not get yourself contaminated by by the ones who blame the government, the employers, or like be responsible for your own career.
I'm glad. That's the perfect ending of our discussion. Take ownership of your life. Be a leader of your life. If you take responsibility for your actions, you demonstrate leadership. If you step outside your comfort zone, you demonstrate leadership. Be there to help others. Be there for your colleagues. Be there for your network. And do your best for yourself and for your team. We are all unique. Everyone is unique. I see Olo. Do you want to add something to the discussion?
Yes, just to piggyback on what Angela mentioned, there is a job for everybody. Everybody's experience is unique. And somebody's looking for that unique experience that you have, just to advise, as a sort of advice to people that are still looking for jobs. There's something unique about your experience that somebody's looking for. Just put yourself out there. If you have to do a certification, well, just a while away the time, put in for a certification. There are loads and loads of certifications online that you can do. If you want to do online schooling, you can put yourself out there, do online schooling. Just keep moving. Don't stop. Just keep moving and keep believing, and then you will definitely get a job.
Excellent. That's excellent comment. I encourage everyone who's looking for work, identify your strengths. Know exactly what you are good at. Know what type of value you can bring. Be clear with your value proposition. And if you have your professional plan, you obviously have certain certifications that you want to pursue. Have it outlined for yourself. It will help you position yourself in a way that you know exactly what is your next step is in professional development. Absolutely. Focus on your strengths, be yourself, and I hope you enjoyed this video.